Hello and welcome back to AMD Racing. Today we'll take a quick look at update 13, which not only brings back an old track, but also adds drift mode back to Forza Motorsport. More on the sideways driving later on. But first we're gonna take a look at the new track, which is actually an old one. It's Sunset Peninsula. And this has been in the game before, but in the Xbox 360 days, specifically Forza Motorsport 4. And I have to admit, I haven't played that, so this track is totally new for me. And by the way, if you're noticing maybe the other drivers not being all that fast or smart, that's because it's AI and yeah, okay. They are still kind of bad. I'm not quite sure if it's just because it's a new track, but then again, AI in Forza Motorsport sadly isn't all that great most of the time anyway. But we're gonna try and ignore that. Something to listen out for here. Maybe you heard that already. If not, maybe you can rewind the video. I have enabled another new feature, which is audio signals for the proximity radar. So if someone's beside you, you're gonna hear some sounds. It's sadly mostly just beeping. I was kind of expecting more something along the lines of like ACC has or some other games, which there's a spotter that tells you if there's a car to your left or your right to be careful, and then when you're in the clear. This is really quite different and I'm not quite sure it's all that helpful. I, as I said, enabled it because I just saw that in the patch notes and I wanted to try it out, but it doesn't seem all that great to me. So yeah, can try it out. It's in the gameplay and HUD options. And well, while we are on the topic of sounds, they also adjusted or reworked some car sounds. 3 in particular. I'm gonna show you 2 more later on, but the first one we are sitting in right now, and this is the Corvette C7R. And I'm actually quite happy that they did that. I haven't driven the Corvette C7 a whole lot, but well, the sound was okay to me, but wasn't all that amazing. And I think, to me at least, it sounds better now. Let me know in the comments if you agree on that, or if you feel like it has been, well, not that much of an improvement, or if you even like the old sound better. I'm not quite sure. Maybe the C7 had the same sound as some of the other Corvettes, and they just wanted to distinguish it a little bit more and make it more unique. I'm not quite sure. And hopefully we will also get some more of the other cars which have kind of generic sounds, which will hopefully get an upgrade. But for now, let's also finally talk a little bit about the track that we are driving on. So this is a tri-oval, similar to Daytona, and I think this track used to be in Forza Motorsport because they didn't have the license for Daytona back in the days, and they just made a fictional track, Sunset Peninsula. But before we do that, maybe also let's check the sound of this car from the outside before I forget. So you just get the full experience here. I'm just gonna be quiet for a moment once again. So yeah, in my opinion, once again, also from the outside, sounds quite nice. I like the sound. But yeah, back to Sunset Peninsula. As I said, kind of the Daytona when Daytona wasn't in Forza Motorsport yet. So I'm not quite sure why they brought it back. I don't think it was like that much of a fan favorite, but well, maybe they have their reason. There is also, we can't drive that yet, but this track has a drag strip built into it. So maybe when drag racing comes to Forza Motorsport eventually, that then is already there. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, we are driving right now the full circuit, they call it here, which is basically the complete infield and part of the oval. We're also going to check out some of the other variants later on. But yeah, so far I think I kind of like it. The curbs are kind of nice. They are quite steep and unsettle the car quite a bit, so you need to be careful, and I kind of like that. But you can use them. I've also heard stories from the old version in Forza Motorsport 4 where you could basically flip your car on these curbs. So if that's something that you experienced back in the day, if you played Forza Motorsport 4, let me know. I just heard that story told by someone. But yeah, I kind of like the track. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of oval tracks, but this one, it feels okay. Not the biggest fan, but it's an okay track for me. But yeah, that's my first look at this variant done. Next, we'll take a look at another variant, but we are gonna do something else there. And for that, we will need another car. And we are in the Formula Drift category here of car manufacturers, which aren't really manufacturers, but Forza does it this way. The Formula Drift cars are now in the game. You can purchase these just from where you can buy the cars, basically. And I think I'm just gonna take the lowest powered one here, the Ford Mustang. And I'm already gonna preface this. By the way, here is the setup in free play. You can just set the game type to drift, and well, then just pick your track and can then set the race timer. So how long do you have to get the best drift score you can? But yeah, I'm gonna preface this. I'm a terrible drifter, especially on wheel. So I'm gonna try, but I'm probably gonna switch to controller later on. But yeah, we're gonna skip ahead till we start this drift session, and then we will just see how it goes, I guess. Before we do though, I think it's a good idea to take a look at some more gameplay and HUD options, because the drift HUD for some reason is disabled by default. So I would say enable that. And another thing that has been in the game for quite a while is now actually useful, and that's the drift camera. So you can turn that on as well. That's basically just for the cockpit perspective. I'm gonna try to show that. Not quite sure if I will be really able to, but yeah, I think we can take a look at what that's like. So both the drift HUD and the drift camera, I think, are good options to change before we get into drifting here. And yeah, we're gonna see how terrible I am at drifting. I have to say I haven't drifted at all on a wheel so far, and also I don't have a round wheel at the moment, so this is probably gonna be quite terrible. But well, let's see what we can do. And oh, by the way, yeah, something that you also should disable for drifting is traction control. So let's turn that off, because we don't need that. We actually don't want that for drifting. And well, let's now resume, and we'll try to get this car sideways. And yeah, this is kind of what I was expecting. We were sideways, but well, let's try once again. Trying just from the outside perspective, just something I'm more used to from Forza Horizon, but it's probably not gonna be much better. Oh god. Yeah, so this isn't really working out, I feel like. Maybe one more try. But yeah, yeah, okay, even with very low power, I just can't get this to work. So yeah, as I said, I'm gonna switch to controller. Oh, and by the way, just full disclosure, for controller, which I've now switched to, I'm gonna just use normal instead of simulation steering, because I will not be able to control the car with simulation steering, especially in drifting, I feel like. So let's see if this maybe works out a little bit better for me. Alright. Now that already feels a little bit more familiar. Yeah, as I said, basically I just know drifting from Forza Horizon. I really haven't drifted at all, I think, in Forza Motorsport, even in the older titles. It was just something that I never really got into. I did it in Horizon on controller in this kind of camera perspective, so this is more like something I'm used to, but I really feel like it's a little bit more difficult here, or just I'm not that used to it. But yeah, as I said, I'm also not great at it at all, so this is probably quite painful to watch for some of you who are way better at drifting. If you have any tips here, let me definitely know. But yeah, it probably just looks terrible for a lot of you. Something I want to point out is the drift UI in the bottom right above the speedometer. That is what we have enabled in the gameplay and HUD options, and as I said, it's disabled by default, so if you go into drifting it's not there for some reason. So yeah, I have to enable that. Oh, and that's not where the track goes, so oh boy. And this swinging motion is really hard to control, and I'm even on normal steering here. Don't really want to know what that's like on simulation steering, I have to say. Oh yeah, once again, not able to control that drift. Yeah, I need to be well, I need a lot of practice for this, and I'm not quite sure if I'm willing to put the time in to actually do that. So this might be a game mode that's just not for me, but I know a lot of people have been waiting for drift mode to come back to Forza Motorsport. So it's here. It's not in multiplayer. Well, you can use it in a private multiplayer session. By the way, let's check out the internal perspective, which then also, by the way, uses the drift camera. As you can maybe see, the camera is kind of pointing in the direction we are drifting, or where the car is moving and not where we are facing, which is helpful for drifting. So I would say enable that if you drift in this camera perspective. But yeah, you can use or you can do drifting in just free play, in private multiplayer, so you can do it with other people, but you have to set up a session for that. And then I think it's gonna be also in Rivals. I did check, it's not active yet, but it might be tomorrow when the new events come online, basically. There is apparently gonna be Rivals drifting, so you can, well, go for high scores in a specific car on a specific track, I presume. Might check that out, might also not. As I said, I'm not the biggest drift guy, so maybe this mode is not that much for me, but yeah, as I said, a lot of people I think have been waiting for this, and it's there. And it apparently also is gonna get some upgrades in the future in terms of, well, just using more of the features that are right now in featured multiplayer, so like proper drift lobbies. I think that's something that they said is gonna come. Not sure when, I don't think they talked about it yet. Yeah, but it's here. And by the way, I don't think I even said that in the beginning. We are, of course, once again on Sunset Peninsula, and I think also at night this track looks kind of cool, like with the ambience, with the grandstands, with the lights. It's kind of nice. And this is the club variant, but in reverse. And that's something that Forza has done with a lot of tracks that are not real, that are fictional. They do also, or they have the ability to drive them in reverse, which is kind of nice. So you can do that for both this and the full circuit, I think, as well. But yeah, time is running out here, and I think that's enough drifting for me now. So I'm just gonna take a look at the other track variants and also show you some more car sounds. So you might be familiar with this car. It's the Pagani Huayra R. I'm really terrible at pronouncing that car name. And this is one of the other cars that has gotten a big sound upgrade. And you can maybe already hear that if you're familiar with how that car sounded. And, well, I think already this sounds a lot better. I'm not quite sure if I like it 100%. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like it sounds a little bit different again in Forza Horizon. But yeah, as I said, upgrades to car sounds, always something that's kind of nice to get, because we are at a point where some cars just sound too generic. Well, actually quite a lot of cars. So yeah, upgrades are always very welcome in this regard. So we are now on the Oval variant of Sunset Peninsula. Nothing special in my opinion. I think it's nice in terms of the transitions. Not very harsh, just very, very easy to take. Let's also take a listen from the inside here. Yeah, that once again I think sounds a lot better than it did before, but I haven't driven the car a lot, so yeah, let me know what you think, and what you think in general of them updating some of the cars that are already in game. As I crash into the wall here. Let's check another one, by the way. And this kind of caught me by surprise. It's the Acura Integra, I think 2001 variant. This is a car that I did use before and I upgraded. I did a video where I upgraded this to C-Class and used it in multiplayer. And I didn't feel like the car sounded all that bad, but yeah, I don't have a direct comparison right now. Maybe I should take a look at the old video. I can link it for you as well. Maybe you can see then as well what the difference is. But yeah, they also upgraded this car. One other thing I want to note, if you take a look to the right side, the drift UI, if you enable that, it's always present. I'm not quite sure why that is, because I feel like if you're not in drift mode, so where you're trying to get points for drifting, why is that even there? But, well, I'm not quite sure. And also, from a visual standpoint, it kind of feels a lot Forza Motorsport 7-ish. Like, just with how that looks, it kind of feels out of place in the current Forza Motorsport, to me at least. Like, these grey boxes, that really screams Forza Motorsport 7 to me. Not quite sure. You can take a listen as well from the inside here. I'm just gonna be quiet for a second. And is it just me, or can you barely hear the engine from the inside? Like, from the outside it sounds kind of good, but from the inside the only thing, or almost the only thing I can hear is the turbocharger. Because I upgraded this car to C-Class, turbocharger was just the best thing I could take, and well, it's basically the only thing that you can hear. I'm not quite sure why that is. I don't really like it, but yeah, maybe that's a bug. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, that's basically all that I wanted to show you for today. Just a quick video. Apologies, by the way, for not having a video out in a couple of weeks. I'm very busy in real life at the moment once again, and sadly YouTube making videos here then always takes a little bit of a backseat. I hope that I still can bring you some content in the future. We'll see what that's gonna entail, Forza Motorsport or maybe also some other stuff. Yeah, as I said, we'll see. I hope that you still enjoyed this one, this little quick look at the current update 13. I quite like it. There were also some other changes, by the way, to Forza race regulations and some other stuff. We'll link the patch notes and the update post from Forza.net in the description if you want to take a look. To me, good looking update. I hope that they continue like this and yeah, just improve Forza Motorsport further, because I think, as I said in my 1-year review video, it's on the right track in my opinion. But yeah, that's it from me. I hope that you enjoyed. Thanks a lot for watching. I've been HD Racing, and see you in the next one.